For the eyes of the world now look into space, to the moon, and to the planets beyond. Our leadership in science and industry, our hopes for peace and security, our obligations to ourselves as well as others, all require us to make this effort, to solve these mysteries, to solve them for the good of all men. There is no strife, no prejudice, no national conflict in outer space as yet. Its hazards are hostile to us all. Its conquest deserves the best of all mankind. We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Because that challenge is one that we're willing to accept, one we are unwilling to postpone, and one we intend to win.
Alright, you heard the man. We're going to the Mun. It's Mun or bust. Let's do it. Not because it's easy, but because it's hard. Alright, before we do anything else, I want you to go into settings, scroll down to advanced tweakables, and make sure that is set to enabled. Save your settings, and then we'll go into the vehicle assembly building and start assembling our rocket. I sort by size, just this basic Mark 1 command pod with a pilot, Jebediah, and I turn it to the right by clicking a piece, holding L1 and pressing right on the D-pad, and I do that because I much prefer pressing down to pitch down after launch rather than yawing to the right. If you're comfortable yawing to the right, you don't have to do that at all. And we're going to get rid of the monopropellant. We're not going to be doing any docking maneuvers, so we don't need that. We can save weight. And, not much electricity, only 50. So I'm going to put a battery up here. And then cheekily, I'm going to clip it into the command pod. And what I'm doing there, I'm pressing square on the part and setting it the auto strut to grandparent part. And I do this with every single part that I attach with the rocket. So get into the habit of doing that. And like I said, I'm going to cheekily clip the battery into the command module using the move tool up here, up on the right. Click on that, click on the part you want to move, hold down R1, and then using the left analog stick, just move it down a couple of times. And there you go. And then when you pick on a new part, it should put you back into the placement tool. A couple of drogue chutes. Not sure if those are entirely necessary, but we're going to play it safe. This is a tutorial for beginners. Make sure anytime you're putting parachutes on, put all of the settings, the top 3 bars, put them all the way up. Just play it safe. You don't have to worry about them. I don't want the shroud enabled. And this is too much ablator. 200 is too much. 100 would be plenty. We'll have spare, probably about 50, 60 spare. I like to jettison my heat shield as I'm coming down after I've opened up my parachutes. Get rid of a bit of weight and slow us down as we hit the because I mean, I'll be honest guys, like when we're coming back, I'm not going to know if we're going to be splashing down or landing on ground, but I'm going to show you a reliable way of getting back from the Mun where that doesn't matter. Attach a decoupler, and then I'll put a fuel tank on. Actually, you know what, just before we put the fuel tank on, just in case you're worried about your vessel tumbling over on its side when you're trying to land on the Mun, we'll put a stabilizer or a reaction wheel, whichever one it is. Put that on there, then the fuel tank. And then the good old Terrier engine. Don't forget to auto strut that. Grandparent part. Then come down to the delta V calculator here. And basically I've got a sort of ballpark figure in mind. So set it to vacuum, and there's a delta V, 2,225. The ballpark figure I had in mind was 2,500. Now, assuming you don't have the Making History DLC, the add-on pack, I'm not going to use any of those parts, just going to use the stock parts. And if you want to add a bit more fuel to your rocket without making it any taller, suggest taking little fuel tanks like these, putting them over on the side, and then just, if they're jutting out too much, clip them in using the move tool. As far as landing legs go, when I'm actually landing a Kerbal rather than just a probe, I always use these landing legs. They're far more reliable than the landing legs that are one size smaller than this. Always make sure your landing gear does actually go below your engine nozzle. And just so we don't run out of electricity, I'll put 4 of the little solar panels around it. Retract those. Then put a little decoupler here. I don't want the shroud. I'm going to have fairing over this anyway, so it's sort of redundant. So I'll just get rid of it. Move that up one. Put another stabilizer / reaction wheel. Give that its own batteries. Doesn't really need them, but sometimes I just get paranoid about running out of electricity, so I'll give this its own battery supply. Putting the fairing and a little trick here. I'm going to press square there. Auto strut as always. Set that to grandparent part. And I'm going to move this up, save a bit of height. I should be able to go holding down R1 3 times. If I go 4 times, yeah, it's too much. So 3 times up, holding R1. And save a bit of height on the rocket there. And then I'm going to manually strut using 4 of these to attach to the coupler. And I'm going to attach the fairing. That way it won't sway around as we're going up. It won't sway from side to side as we're going up through the atmosphere. And then just place the fairing. Doesn't really matter as long as it's not too excessive. Of course, every bit you add is a bit more weight. There you go, the nose cone there, right. And then we'll move this up, give ourselves a bit more room. Check the staging's fine. Always check your staging. The game does sometimes do something unusual with the staging. I'm going to put that fuel tank on there, the X200. And we're going to use the Poodle engine. I'm pretty sure that's a stock part. And have been made obsolete by some of the Making History DLC engines. If you are really worried about getting up through the atmosphere successfully without your rocket tumbling over, we'll put 4 of these little Werner engines up here. That's going to help with stability and control. Alright then, next 200, little one. And then this big white one. I don't know the names of these. They're going to use a skipper engine as our second stage. Alright, put this large tank on the bottom, and then our first stage is going to be the trusty mainsail. Come down here, because what I like to check with this delta V calculator is it because it shows you a thrust to weight ratio as well. So I go at sea level because it's the first stage. 1.65 for the mainsail. That's a bit much. I like to do between sort of 1.2, 1.4. So if we put the thrust down a bit, we'll see the thrust to weight ratio goes down 1.46, 1.38. That's fine by me. And then we'll check, we'll go to altitude for the second stage engine. And I put 15 kilometers just sort of as a benchmark, just to give me an idea what the thrust to weight ratio is going to be like. Right, a little bit high, I'll put that down, maybe like 10%, about there, that'll do. 1.37, absolutely fine. And when we get out to vacuum, yeah, it's fine, doesn't really matter. Wonderful little tool there, the delta V calculator. Use it, it will reduce the size of your rockets. Alright, now, when I first started playing this, looking at tutorials online, players swore that putting things like wings on the rockets, it doesn't really make a difference, but I found actually it does. What you want to do is come down bottom left hand corner here, center of thrust, center of gravity, aerodynamic display, turn on center of mass, that's the yellow and black ball there, and then aerodynamics, that's the blue and black one. Now that's down there at the moment, so it's basically saying it doesn't really have any surface areas of winglets on it. And take off the first stage, because you want to know what the aerodynamics are like as you're going up through the atmosphere, stage by stage. And then put 4 of these, the AV R8 winglets on here. Auto strut them. And I put rigid attachment on just in case. I don't think it actually makes a difference, but I just do it anyway. And then on our first stage, because the blue ball's way up high there, I want that. And what I tend to do is I get the blue ball a little bit under the yellow and black one, the blue and black ball. Now, general rule of thumb is the closer the blue ball is to the yellow and black one, the more maneuverable it is. The further away it is, the stiffer the rocket flies, and it's much more stable, but it's really hard to pitch or yaw over. So I like having it just a little bit under. I like having the blue and black ball just a little bit under the yellow and black one. Right, and that's our rocket done. Gonna be using good old Jebediah. Give it a name, on or bust. That'll do. Oh, you know what I forgot? I forgot to put Separatrons on the second stage. Your first stage doesn't need Separatrons. The atmosphere, the aerodynamic forces of the atmosphere will push it away from the rest of your rocket anyway. The second stage is the one. So if I look at the staging here, no, I don't. That's that decoupler. So I want it to go on the next decoupler up here. So just move that up. And there you go. And then that will ensure the second stage is moved away clearly. And when we ignite the third engine, it won't blow anything up behind us. All right, save. And then just move out onto the launch pad. Alright, here we go. On the launch pad, press circle to turn on SAS, L1 and circle to turn on those Werner engines. There's 4 little white Werner engines at the top there. Now, see, I've got north on the nav ball pointing to my right. That's because I turned the command module 90 degrees to the right. So I pitched down to turn my rocket over as we're going up rather than pressing right. Now, of course, when you're launching, you really want to be looking at the nav ball more than anything else. You don't really want to be looking at the rocket. The nav ball tells you far more. That yellow reticule on the nav ball there, that's your prograde marker. You want to make sure you don't stray too far out of there. What I'm aiming for as we're pitching over is to get over to 45-degree angle, somewhere between 10 and 15 kilometers up in the air. So I'm just very gently pressing down on the analog stick, just tapping it down, going over. And yeah, it's best to get over to 45 degrees by 10,000. I didn't quite hit that. I only got over by 15,000, but that's fine. Then once you're at 45 degrees, you want to stay there. Stay at that angle. Switch to the map screen, pressing L1 and R1. And that blue line, that's our current trajectory. And I'm just going to keep the cursor over the apoapsis marker there. I'm going to wait till that gets up to about 50,000. Once it does, I'm going to pitch the rocket over so it's going completely horizontal to the ground. That's what you'll see on the nav ball is like 50% blue, 50% orange. Blue being the sky, that orangey brown being the ground. Going over horizontal to the ground. Going full throttle here. And then just watching the apoapsis go up. As we get up to a speed of about 18, 1900 meters a second, the apoapsis will go up a lot quicker. We're just trying to transfer our vertical velocity into horizontal velocity so we can actually whip ourselves around Kerbin and get into orbit. If you can't consistently get into orbit, forget trying to get to the Mun. Go watch my video on how to consistently get into orbit. Watch that first before you try this. Alright, there goes the second stage. Full throttle, keeping myself horizontal to the ground, and we'll go up to about 85,000 around that. There you go, overshot a bit, but it doesn't matter. Set myself to prograde as I'm going, still kind of going through the last of the atmosphere here. Do a little mini time warp up here because I don't want to sit here waiting forever. And then get rid of the fairing. Don't need you anymore. Right, so we're in space, but we're not in orbit yet. So as per usual, set maneuver node up at your apoapsis, circularize your orbit. I like setting my view to orbital camera. That way your pertinent information here in the yellow font it's easier to read when it's got like just black space behind it. A quick circularization burn. This third stage here, it's going to get us into orbit. It's going to push us out towards the Mun, get us in orbit of the Mun, and do the bulk of our descent down for our landing. Now the way this works, as we burn out from Kerbin towards the Mun, she's obviously not going to be where she currently is here on the map screen. And so what you want to do is position so the Mun's here, and then you want 90 degrees. We're going to put our maneuver node at the bottom of Kerbin. But before we do that, go over to the Mun with the cursor, select it and select set as target, and then the Mun's orbit will go yellow. And then that way, when we do our maneuver node here, we start pushing out. Oh, by the way, if you're really close to a maneuver node and it's like a minute away and you're like, oh god, panicking, press R1 twice and then down right on the left analog stick and just add an orbit, buy yourself more time. And then we're going to push out with a prograde marker, about 850 meters per second. And because we set the Mun as target, this map screen is now showing us where the Mun's going to be, our like relative positions towards one another when we're approaching each other. So the effect of the gravity of the Mun is going to whip us around for the gravity assist. But we don't want that. What we want to do is come the other way in what's called a retrograde orbit. So what I want you to do is to go over onto the Mun, select it with the cursor, and say focus view, and then that camera shifts over to the Mun. Gives you a much better idea of what's going on. Then push out just a little bit prograde until your purple trajectory line goes like this, flips over, and then this way we're coming around the back of the Mun. We'll try and get a periapsis of anywhere between about 20 to 30k is fine. It's a nice safe distance. So whereas before, us coming around the Mun in a prograde orbit would have spat us out into a solar orbit, coming around retrograde, even if we mess up after this burn, our Kerbal won't be trapped in an orbit around the sun. They'll be trapped in an orbit around Kerbin, which is much, much better. So right now we haven't got an equilateral orbit. I want that purple line to split the Mun half and half. It's not doing that right now, but that's okay. We can fix that later. Let's just get the burn out to the Mun. Let's get that out of the way. Just time warp up to the burn. Alright, so 48-second burn. We're going to go 24 seconds before our maneuver node. However long your burn is, halve it. And then that's when you start burning, when the node in T- is half what the burn time is. There goes the Poodle engine. Right, burn done. There you go. We're coming around the back of the Mun now. Like I say, not an equilateral orbit, sort of skewed, bit of a weird angle, but there's an easy fix for that. Don't worry too much. What you want to do is just zoom the camera out a bit. That blue line, our trajectory towards the Mun, about halfway along there, set a maneuver node. Set a maneuver node, press R1, and then press L1 to cycle between these three. I don't know what you would even call them, but these two pink ones are normal and anti-normal, or in layman's terms, up and down. So cycle through to you on the pink ones, and then you either press up or down the left analog stick, and then that will move our periapsis down a bit into a more... We're going to come into a more equatorial orbit. Nice, easy fix there. Alright, now it's a really small burn with a very short burn time, which I don't like. I like having burn times that are at least over 1 second. And so the way to deal with this, click on your engine, press square, and put the thrust limiter down. But of course, don't forget you put the thrust limiter down. Put it back up after this burn's done. And then here, I think, yeah, we'll play it safe. We'll do a quick save. Get into the habit of doing quick saves. Things can and do go wrong. You don't want to lose those cute little green Kerbals. You might not know it, but once you start landing and getting back from places, you're going to have an emotional attachment to whatever Kerbal you had this successful mission with. Oh, and as a general rule of thumb and a good habit to develop, gradually time warp up, like arrow by arrow. All right, come out of time warp, do this quick little correction burn. There you go, there you go. Looking good, if I say so myself. Right, so at this point, even if we did nothing else, our Kerbal's still going to be in orbit around Kerbin. So even if you screw up after this point, your Kerbal's fine, he's safe. Right, but we're not actually in orbit of the Mun yet. Get into orbit, all we have to do is set a maneuver node at the periapsis, and then just pull down left analog stick, pull down retrograde. Is that good? Yeah, that's fine, that'll do. I'm not gonna mess around trying to get that perfect. Another quick save. Put the thrust limiter back up. Well, I can't do that because I'm time warping. Come on, we'll put that back up. So it's not a 4-5 minute burn. It's only 12 seconds. That's better. Alright, and as we're time warping in, you'll notice that the time warp automatically goes down to 4 arrows. And I want you to look at the nav ball, because you'll see the nav ball change. Right, so what the nav ball does, what it shows you basically, is your vessel's position relative to the celestial body that is currently orbiting around. So what this change indicates in that we're no longer in Kerbin's sphere of influence, we're now in the Mun sphere of influence. Alright, and then I like to gradually slow down time warp, because I'm an idiot and I have, on many occasions, time warp past my maneuver node. Use quick saves. Right, using our guidance system there on the left hand side of the nav ball, Set to maneuver position. Burn time of 12 seconds. So node in T minus 6 seconds is when we're going to thrust up our engine 100%. Now, being on the dark side of the mun, it's not really great for a YouTube video. It's just, you're mostly looking at black here. Anyway, yeah, so I like to throttle down as I'm getting towards the end of the burn, just to make sure I don't overdo it. And there you go, we are in orbit of the mun. Yeah, not a perfectly circular orbit, but it never is. And what I want is, considering this is a YouTube video, I'm going to land on the bright side, the side with the sun shining on it. Now, the mun isn't very flat, so if you do a crew report by clicking on your command module, look at the surface of the mun, try to find a suitable place to land. You figure in the center of the craters is the best bet, which generally speaking, yeah, those are the flattest parts of the mun. So I'm just seeing if the blue line does actually cross over a crater. And yeah, look, we found one here. This is looking like a good prospect. So I'm just going to time warp. So the camera is currently focused on the mun. That's why it's not moving around with the ship. Yeah, that's good enough. All right, and I'm going to point retrograde. I'm just going to start burning, gently start burning up, start thrusting up. And you're going to see that blue line on the left-hand side is going to start to vanish. There we go. And I want it to stop just before it reaches that crater that we're aiming for. The reason for that is as we're getting closer, as we're going to get closer to the ground, we're going to be burning retrograde. And that blue line is going to shorten. All right, now there's many a way come down to land on the mun. A fashionable way is the suicide burn. I don't like that, especially for a beginner tutorial. We're not going to do any suicide burns because they're really hard to do. And I don't want you to get frustrated watching your Kerbal slam into the ground at 200 miles an hour. So what I like to do is set a maneuver node about halfway between my vessel and the ground. Go retrograde first and then get that yellow line to there. And then I'm going to use anti-normal because I want to land sort of center to the crater. The center of the crater is usually the flattest part. I'm going to radial out a bit as well. Push that line back. And what I'm doing with the going a bit retrograde, going radial out a bit retrograde, a bit radial out, is I'm reducing my horizontal velocity and my vertical velocity at the same time. Because if I were to burn just retrograde, in terms of horizontal velocity, I would come to a dead stop, but then I would just start falling towards the mun, and I'd be picking up speed as I'm coming down. So this way we do a bit of both. We slow down our horizontal velocity and, well, slow and reduce vertical velocity at the same time. Oh, what's that blue mark over there? Oh, that's where I built a test rocket for this, to make sure it worked. If you've never landed on the mun before, you're not going to see that. That's where I planted a flag. I shouldn't have done that. I should have just landed and left, but I've planted a flag anyway. That marker might come in handy actually later when we're trying to launch off the surface of the mun. So I make a couple of these maneuver nodes as I'm coming down, just sort of periodically slowing ourselves down. Now, since we're landing on the mun, well, there is no sea, there's no oceans to land in, there's only ground, so go up towards your altimeter at the top of the screen there, and set that to the green. It's like a white icon of a mountain. So that's like the radar actually pointing towards the ground, giving you a much more accurate figure in terms of how high or how far you are from the ground. Do that last burn. Yeah, I've got time for another one. You don't want to overdo it with this because it does take up some delta V, but we've over-engineered this rocket massively. There's tons of delta V, and it's better to do it this way than to just try and do a last-minute burn at the end, because I don't really want to have Jebediah scraping his ass along the side of the edge of a cliff as he's coming down. I'd rather he drop down. I'd rather he drop straight down and skim his way across the surface. So yeah, that third stage has done a lot of work. Just point retrograde, and then I'm going to jettison this stage. Right, now I know it's cool to extend your landing legs about half a second before you touch down, but sometimes I forget to do it, so I'm going to put them down now, and you can do that using the mouse up here by the altimeter, or you can do what the professionals do, L1 square, toggle your landing gear. Again, L1 and square. That toggles landing gear for anything, basically, like for planes as well. Alright, so we're basically over the target. That dark grey bit in the middle, hopefully that's flat. Usually are. I haven't traversed every crater on the mun. So yeah, fingers crossed. And just by the way, on the map screen, if you come over to this eye, it tells you your burn time to 0, which is good information to have when you're landing or rendezvousing. So it's only a few seconds. We've got a good thrust to weight ratio here. Now, I don't want to overshoot, so I'm going to burn. I'm going to thrust up, get our speed down to about 10 meters a second. So we should just start dropping down now. I think we've overshot it a bit, but as we're coming down pretty slowly, we can correct that. Like I say, she's got tons of delta V, far more than she needs, so we can make liberal use of our engine here as we're coming down. Alright, you know, I want to, that's not looking very flat to me, so I want to come over here more to the bottom right down there where it's darker. So I'm going to keep the navigation system pointing at retrograde, but just using the left analog stick, trial and error, I'm going to figure out what direction I need to be going in. I'm going to go quick thrust up, try and nudge our way over there more. Alright, coming down, slow down our speed. We've got enough delta V that I can just keep. I can just sort of keep gently thrusting like this. Very slowly come down. Nice and easy. Beginner tutorial. We're not suicide burning it. Oh yeah, make sure the nav ball does actually say surface. You want to be in surface mode as you're landing. You do not want to be in orbit. You don't want to be in orbit mode. You want to make sure on the top of the nav ball there in the green it says surface, not orbit. Coming down real nice and slow. And at some point, I'll come off retrograde and put it just on stability assist because we're just pointing straight up. And if you do accidentally thrust up a little bit too much, like if the speedometer on top of the nav ball there, if it goes below 1 meter a second, the navigation system sort of gets confused because you're basically stationary as far as it's concerned. You're not moving, so it doesn't know where retrograde is, and your vessel might end up doing some wacky stuff. So as you come down, and as you're basically about to land, you want to stop pointing retrograde and just go stability assist. And a way to do that without using the mouse cursor, L1 and triangle, and then the very top one, left analog stick, that's stability assist. Good habit to use the key bindings rather than relying on the mouse because it gets hairy sometimes. Oh god, look at this. This is not flat at all. I really don't want to land here. That looks way flatter over there on the right. Yeah, it's odd there. Look at the gradient on that. Right. Stability assist. Let's thrust up a bit. And then whatever direction I've got to move in, I'll figure out. Trial and error. Here we go. Oh, no, wrong way. That way, yeah. There you go. And then just a quick burst of the engine. That should be enough. If it's not, you can radial out and just thrust up very gently. And that'll keep you going. It will sort of carry you a bit further. Because if I point retrograde right now, I'm going to be pointing at the ground. Because we're basically going up. Now we're starting to come down again. So yeah, pointing radial out, just thrusting up a little bit because I want to carry us over a little bit more, a little bit further. Well, you know, we've got 300 meters of space here. Just keep gently thrusting. Slow our rate of descent. Alright, it's starting to look flat to me. Or flat enough. Yeah, one of the other benefits of not relying on a suicide burn. If you don't know where you're landing, you don't know if it's going to be flat or not. Come down this way. Alright, now we're going retrograde. The slower you go, the more you're going to be pointing straight up. So it's a good idea whilst you've got the space to completely reduce your vertical velocity and just come straight down. Here we go. Yeah, this is looking much better. Right, we're getting down to low speed, so we're going to go to stability assist or come off retrograde. Just in case I overdo it with the thruster and the navigation system goes nuts. And there you go, touchdown. Auto saving. Well, I'm going to quick save anyway. Just in case something goes wrong whilst Jeb's outside. I can revert back to this and he's still alive. Right. Keen-eyed among you would have noticed I didn't put a ladder on here. Well, guess what? We don't need one. We're on the Mun. Gravity's pretty low here. So I'm pretty sure if I just let go... Bonk, bonk, bonk. There we go. Yeah, he's still alive. There you go. Didn't even fall over. And if it is a bit dark, I'll press circle to turn on SES first. Always have that on. Then L1 square, turn on your headlights. Have a little look around at the magnificent desolation. Really, you know, once you land on the surface of a celestial body, you kind of quickly realise there's not a lot to do. You can do is click on your curveball, take an EVA report. Sometimes they're funny. Grab a surface sample if you want, if you're in sandbox mode, which you should be if you're a beginner. That doesn't really do anything. But here you go. Here's what you really came for. You came here to conquer. You came here to claim this land. And you're going to do it the old-fashioned way by planting a flag in the ground. Mun or bust. There you go. Mun or bust. Landing site. That'll do. Alright. So there's no ladder. How are we going to get back up, eh? We're going to jetpack our way up. L1 and circle pulls out your little jetpack. And the way this works, right trigger to go up, and then left analog stick very, very gently, using little puffs here. Don't go crazy with it. And just gently come over. Yeah, you get close enough, you can grab on like that. And there you go. Boom, board. Easy. Don't forget to quick save if you're not used to using the EVA jetpack thing. Quick save when you land and before you take off, just in case things go wrong. Right, now I want to go in a retrograde orbit again, because I think you save a little bit of delta V going retrograde orbit to come back to Kerbin. I want to go that way, again clockwise, as opposed to the Mun's anti-clockwise orbit of Kerbin herself. Right, you know, oh yeah, there you go. I'll use the flag as a point of reference. So I don't want to go that way. I want to go the other way. Right, so to know which way I'm going, I'm going to look at the engine nozzle. Let's go the opposite direction of what I want. Right, so that's the wrong way. That's the right way. Press up. I want to go up. And the way I know this is because you see on the nav bar, I've got north perpendicular on the right there. So I know to either go up or down to get into an equatorial orbit again. So I thrust up gently, retract the landing gear, get myself 45-degree angle, then thrust up all the way. And then very, very quickly, you want to get over into an almost, not quite horizontal position, but almost horizontal position. Wait till your apparatus goes up to a safe-ish 8, 9, 10k, and then go fully horizontal. You don't want to fly head first into a cliff. And we're going to go out quite far. It's going to go out really quickly. There you go. We go 50k is fine by me. 55, that'll do. Doesn't matter when when you're leaving the Mun. Doesn't really matter what your apparatus is. Circularize that orbit by putting maneuver node there. There you go. Come on. Oh, I missed it again. Oh, oh, Jesus. Come on. Oh my God. This is so annoying. Okay, there you go. Done. Go up to your altimeter. Put that back to sea level because what height you're at affects what time warp you can go to. You have to be at a certain height to do a certain time warp. Time warp up to our maneuver node. And then gradually slow yourself down as you're coming out of time warp. That's another good habit to develop. I miss so many maneuver nodes trying to be cool and trying to stop it dead on. Yeah, don't do that. Just gradually go down 1 hour at a time. Right. Getting back to Kerbin. So we're going that way around. Well, the Mun's going that way around. We're going the opposite direction around the Mun. So what we want to do is burn in the opposite direction to the Mun's orbit. So we're going to put a maneuver node here on the opposite end. And then go out prograde. Right. So you see I've got the apoapsis on the left, periapsis on the right. So as my periapsis comes down, the apoapsis moves away, which I don't really want. So to avoid that, press R1 twice. And then this is like sort of trimming where your maneuver node actually is, sort of fine tuning it. So if I just move it that way, get the apoapsis back towards me, and then go back to pushing out prograde. And then just switching between the two. And I want the periapsis to be about 30k. What is it now? 48. 28, that'll do. Doesn't need to be bang on. KSP, when you first start playing KSP, it is unbelievably difficult. Like brutal. Donkey Kong levels of brutal. But then once you start figuring out orbital mechanics, the basics, you realize how incredibly forgiving the game is. Like for NASA, SpaceX, all of that, like their calculations have to be bang on. In this, you don't even have to make calculations. You can eyeball it. You can trial and error your way through it. It's a really forgiving game. Oh, do you know what? I flubbed that completely, but I just need to burn prograde a little bit more. Just get that down to about 30k. Yeah, don't do what I just did there. Like just cancel maneuver node when you still got another 5 meters or so to go. Right, down to 30k. Now this is it's an elliptical orbit around Kerbin with a re-entry. We're going into Kerbin's atmosphere. Kerbin's atmosphere starts at about 70,000. It's very, very thin up until about 55,000. Then it gets a lot thicker, and that's where you're in territories. Well, that's where your Kerbal might burn up and die territory. So we're coming in pretty steep. It's going to be quite a severe re-entry. However, we do have a lot of Delta V left. So what we're going to do is going to time warp, come in a bit closer, not too close, slow it down a bit. I'm going to put a maneuver node, or a nice safe distance away from Kerbin. We've got plenty of time to do the burn. I've got 900 meters a second of Delta V to play with. So we'll put a maneuver node about here. Should be safely out of Kerbin's atmosphere there. I'm going to radial out a bit. Retrograde a bit. Same trick again. And what this is going to do, going to bleed off a lot of our velocity. So I'm going to keep the periapsis at 30k. Make sure you do that. That's imperative. And just switching between radial out and retrograde. You can see the orange line there. There's what a difference this is making to our re-entry. So we're not coming in quite so fast. I mean, if we didn't do this, we'd probably be coming in over 3,000 meters a second. Whereas with doing this, it would probably be about 2,600, something like that, as a guess. It means we're not going to need as much ablator. So yeah, you just basically, the point is you don't have to worry about, oh, is my vessel going to have enough Delta V to land where I want it to get back to Kerbin, to get back in orbit around Kerbin, and then deorbit. Instead of doing that, just come straight back into Kerbin's atmosphere. There we go, time warp to burn again. Here we go, final burn. Get that blue trajectory line down. Burn done. And then I'm going to point normal. I'm not going to do any burns here, but this is just the position I put myself in when I decouple the command module for re-entry, just to make sure there's zero chance of that fuel tank smashing into us about 400 meters a second, destroying our command module. And I usually jettison about 75k. Give yourself enough time to get some distance between the two of you, and then point retrograde. Alright, now we are in atmosphere. I'm just going to time warp up. Oh yeah, the camera, because it was on orbital. switch that to 3 as I'm coming down. If you're not good at doing re-entries, maybe don't time warp your way through this. Not sure I'm going to be splashing down and landing on the ground, so as preemptively I'm just going to switch that. I'm going to switch the automata to land rather than sea level. Double check, is that the drogue chute? Yes it is, and all settings are all fine. Yeah, got plenty of ablator. Alright, and then at about somewhere below 5,000, between like 3 and 5,000, I'll pop the drogue chutes open. Do it earlier if you're an inexperienced player. I'm just doing this because I'm lazy and impatient. I don't want to wait a long time for the command module to pop, for the command pod to come down. Alright, and then roughly around 500 meters away from the ground, I'll open the main chute and jettison the heat shield as well. Save us a meter or 2 per second in terms of velocity there. Could be the difference between life and death, you never know. And as we're about 10 meters away, I'll come out of time warp just to make sure the game doesn't glitch out and I like smash through the ground. And there you go, we've been to the Mun and back. Good old Jebediah. And just recover vessel. And there you go, there it is. The proof that we were here. That is how you land on the Mun and get back. Direct ascent style. Until next time, we will probably go to Minmus. Until then, goodbye.